Back, bigger and better. SCBC TV now covers Africa and Europe on a free-to-air satellite with the following coordinates on IS-20 KU band. If you were blocked before or not able to receive our signal, this is good news for you. Contact any local satellite dish installer near you for technical assistance and you will be pleased to be connected anywhere you are. SCBC TV, the voice of Ambazonia. Be informed, be educated, be entertained, be revolutionized, and always be the first to know. SCBC TV, always putting Ambazonia first.
Revolutionary greetings to fellow Southern Cameroonians across the globe. This is Tabyenang Etchu, your Secretary of State for Economy and Finance. I come to you this evening under a lot of pain and difficulty to even do this presentation. It hardens my mind and my heart that I have to do this. It is unfortunate that we have come to this situation where we are compelled to present the information necessary to provide clarity to our people on some of the very vexing questions and happenings in this revolution. So permit me, before I get into the nitty-gritty of this conversation this evening, to extend my heartfelt condolences to all our compatriots on ground zero and ground one who have lost their loved ones during this revolution. I hope that we are going to remain steadfast and focused as called upon by His Excellency President Julius Ayok, that our final destination should be Boya. It is either independence or resistance forever. I know a lot of people are going to try to find out exactly why have I decided to speak at this time. I think that in every institution there is a need for discipline, and it is proper for you to adhere to the ethos of that institution. I have been silent not because I could not go out there on social media like others as an activist to talk on some of the issues that have been floating around the various social media platforms. I strongly believe that there are people who came into this struggle like myself, whose only dedication was to see us get to Boya. I hardly listen to a lot of these vituperations on various social media platforms and the various critics, the personal attacks, the smear, the sabotage, because I do believe that there is nothing that somebody is going to do to me in this struggle that La Republique has not done to our people for the past 59 years and counting. So I can take it, but I strongly feel that it is reprehensible and abhorrent for some among us to engage in the vilification of individuals who are in a position that they cannot defend themselves. I would care less. It would be less of a burden to me if the leadership in jail are free people, because in this whole environment of toxic political discourse, I think each and every one could defend themselves. So I have chosen at this time to talk because of the recent happenings and the misconceptions that are being peddled out there by a host of our people, whom I strongly believe that some of them have good intentions, some are completely clueless, some are seeking for relevance, and some have seen the struggle as a platform to some prominence that I do not understand. I felt from the beginning when I was called upon to serve in this role that it was an honor to really give back to our communities. And it was not in my mind far off that it was a permanent position that we would be jockeying for position to go and work in some government in Boya. Some of us, even here in the diaspora, have not demonstrated an interest to work in governance. So I really want to set it very, very clear for people to understand that it is not my desire and has not been my aspiration to go down to Boya. So when I hear people start talking about us trying to cling to power or gaming for position in some future government in Boya, to me that is just ridiculous and laughable. But I would not dismiss the fact that there are others within the struggle who feel that this is their beginning and the end. Some of us are not open to that dispensation. So why at this time? Why have I chosen to talk at this time? I am looking at the concerted effort that has been carefully choreographed and the level of manipulation that have been put in place to undermine the credibility of His Excellency President Julius Ayuk, to slow down the course of the revolution, to bring to doubt the essence of this revolution, and at the same time to completely demoralize the diaspora that has been pivotal as far as funding of this revolution is concerned. And I, from my own point of view, as from observations, I occupy a unique position in this revolution. I am some sort of the nerve center of this revolution, and I understand what it comes with a position like this, that there are a lot and lots of people who want a piece of you, for some with justifications, some with no justifications, some for just the mere fact that it is you who are sitting there. But I think I am not the type to always react to the daily rantings of some ignorant social media activists or even reasonable people within the context of this revolution. I do understand that before you address a problem, you have to put that problem into context. When these things were happening, what was the enabling environment? What was actually going on? So you might be judging it from a perspective of a Monday morning quarterback analyst than you actually being in the middle of it when these things were happening. So I have watched, I have listened, I have read, even though I don't listen to a lot of the audios, because I have come to the conclusion that every week there is something new. Every week there is a controversy. And some are excelling in this controversy because with a lot of this noise that is going on social media, it is very difficult for sanity to prevail. It is very difficult for people to actually hold the leadership to account that what exactly, what is the direction, what is the vision for this struggle. And unfortunately, some of the people that we hold in high esteem and high regards publicly in this revolution have decided to also throw themselves and have gotten themselves embroiled in the cacophony that is presently defining this revolution. So I think for us, the true restoration is for us who believe in the pain and suffering of our people, for us who understand the deep resentment that is eating us up as a people because of the way we've been treated by the junta in Yaoundé. I think it is disheartening to see people like Senior Barrister John Fu and so publicly make outrageous statements with no justifications, and then has the audacity to demand somebody who is in a position that cannot defend themselves to come out and tell the people why he is engaging in some make-up encounters with people behind bars, and to go publicly and declare that he, Barrister So, has been working pro bono, to me is a little bit stretch of of imagination, and there is no truth to that. I am saying no truth to that because I have been the go-to guy between Barrister So and former AP Sako. From the time Barrister So was recruited by another senior comrade, Senior Barrister Mbeshia. And if you see what is happening right now with Barrister So, there is really nothing that has really caused the situation to degenerate to the point where a barrister will go out and completely try to bludgeon his own client. It's something that has never been heard before. And the question you're going to ask is, what was the end game about this attack on Siseko Julius Ayuktabe and some of the other leadership in jail? I personally believe that the only thing that binds our leaders in jail is the solidarity that they have developed during this time that they have been held from Nigeria to the dungeons of La Republique. And that is the bond that holds them together as the core brain behind this revolution. And to see any of us out here try to take the dirty political games that are being played out here to try to divide them by insisting that this one is compromised. I am not saying all of them are compromised, and I am talking to the Contasa, and I'm not talking to this individual. It is mind-boggling, and it is sickening, and it's something that we as a community need to completely chastise. We need to deplore what is going on with the strength that we can muster as a people. So I decided to really identify these areas that I was going to talk about this evening and provide some clarity with substantiated evidence. I will be providing screenshots, slides, and the information that will be needed to tie the loose ends. I am not in any way trying to engage in any vilification or trying to smear the character of the personal integrity of any of these three gentlemen. As a matter of fact, as a junior brother to them, I also deserve, or they deserve, the respect that is coming from me. So, Barrister John Fro and so, I think all started when Barrister Beshia brought him on board, but it was not even a month into Barrister Barrister Timothy Beshia bringing him on board that they fell out. and they fell out because of money. I think it got so bad that Barrister Timothy Mbeshea attacked him and told him that he is a scam, that he is trying to scam the interim government of the hard-earned money of Ambazonians. I think Barrister John Funso, in return, told Barrister Mbeshea that that he is not a lawyer; he's a nurse in the USA, which was a little bit really funny. But I, for one, step in and try to say, all right, I'm going to be the go-between guy between both Barrister John Funso, Barrister Beshia, and the former AIP Dr. Samuel Sako. So moving from there, all the communications that came from Barrister John Funso to Dr. Sako came through me. So I have all of that those communications. All the dealings with Barrister So went through me. So the very first time that I met with Barrister So is when he flew over to the United States. I think that was in October of 2018. In that, I think he demanded that they needed $5,000 and he wanted the money cash, as advised by his other colleagues in Cameroon. So I went in and withdrew $5,000, gave him $4,000, and then said $1,000 was for him, for all the struggle and the good work that he has been doing on behalf of the struggle. I think he traveled to Boston, and I think he brought back $2,000. So for that trip alone, he left the U.S. with about $7,000 that I know of, that I can vouch that this is the money that he left the U.S. with. But I do not have information if he had donations from other sources. In November of 2018, he was delegated by Dr. Sako to meet with the Kamto delegation and go to Nigeria and have a meeting with the Buhari government. I think I bought the ticket, and I think the total cost for that trip was about $1,500. So it is very surprising to me that Barrister So can publicly now turn around and point fingers to His Excellency Seseku Julius Ayuktabe that he has been talking with the Kamto folks or Kamto himself in jail, and that he is compromised because he's now talking to a certain lawyer, is that Emmanuel Sims of MROC. So the surprising thing is he knows very well that AP Sako has been talking with Kamto from November, to the point where he was supposed to go to Ghana with the same Kamto delegation, and then he ended up going to Nigeria, and he filed a report that I have screenshots of that report after the meeting in Nigeria failed. So it is the height of hypocrisy that he can publicly now come out and try to chastise His Excellency Seseku Julius Ayuktabe for talking to Kamto, which I, from my position, cannot verify, when knowing that he himself had been at the center of engaging with the Kamto folks. It was he who indicated to us that he was very happy that Michel Doki, who is one of the prominent MROC lawyers, was assisting us with the legal proceedings with our jail leaders in Yaoundé, and he was very, very happy that the Kamto people are talking to us. So it is kind of confusing that for him to now try to bring Ayuktabe's credibility into question when he has been at the center. Even the Emmanuel Sims, I think he was introduced to AP Sako by the other diminutive figure of Ellie Smith. And I think it is through them that these meetings were being set up. So Ambazonians should not sit back there and listen to complete demagoguery about His Excellency Sissoco Ayok-Tabe meeting with Kamto folks as if there is anything even wrong with meeting with Kamto folks. Kamto is not even the president of the Republic of Cameroon, and if anyone would think that Ayok-Tabe talking to Kamto signifies that Ayok-Tabe is a solar, or whatever decision His Excellency President Sissoco is going to make from behind jail is going to compel those of us who are free beings out here, even on ground zero, if that decision does not go to promote the aspirations of the southern Cameroonians for a free homeland, I think then we are really at this time not really ready to be in this revolution. So that November again, when he left the United States and went back to Cameroon, he later on called me around November the 15th that he needed an additional $5,000 to file for the habeas corpus of the 37 other detainees who were picked up in Taraba. That money was again disbursed to him. November 28th, the leadership was supposed to appear in court the very first time in Yaoundé after being transferred to Kondingi. It was a period of excitement to us, and we were willing to do anything possible to make sure that they deserve a fair trial, a trial with representation, or world-class representation. And we were hopeful that the Nigerian delegation was going to come down to Yaoundé. So Barrister So demanded 200,000 francs each for 35 lawyers who were going to show up for the 2 days. And I think we sent him $11,500. Was close to about 6 million something francs, the CFA. And even though I questioned the idea that we're paying that huge amount, he insisted that that was even chicken change, that it really is not even enough. I was surprised that he can call that was pro bono. I don't know how many lawyers make $200,000 or 200,000 francs a day in ground zero. I am not undermining their net worth or I think that they should be paid for what they deserve. But for Barrister So to say that for us to spend these thousands of dollars, equivalent to millions of francs CFA, and we still call that pro bono, is a little bit disturbing to me. On December 28th, there was an additional request for $6,000. That was the second time the leadership in jail was supposed to be present. The scheduled court date was supposed to be January the 9th in the military tribunal in Yaoundé, and I think there was a call for a complete shutdown. We gave him $6,000, and the activists gave him an additional $8,000. So between the month of November and January 2019, we spent a total of about $37,500 that we dispersed to Barrister So. Now, what happened? What happened between Barrister So and Sissoco Julius Ayok-Tabe? I would like to really seize this moment to apologize to His Excellency President Sissoco Julius Ayok-Tabe for bringing him into this whole complex situation that we now face. I think when I gave So the first $5,000, the second $5,000, and the $11,500, I had complaints from some of the lawyers in Cameroon. that they were not being compensated for the little token that we have indicated that we were going to send up to them. So I took the issue up with the senior barrister, and I told him that something is not right. He was so furious and said I should provide the name of the, and intimidating. He said I should provide the name of the lawyers so that he should remove them from the legal defense team, that he would not accept any instigation or disruption the way he wants to run the proceedings. And it is unacceptable to him that I should even be talking to some of these lawyers. And I said, no, I think what we're trying to do here is to make sure that we have the best representation that our people deserve. And if there are issues with the finances, it is your place as somebody who is as a point person, as a lead defense attorney, to address this situation rather than trying to intimidate the said whistleblower who is indicating that there is something not right with the way the money is being dispensed. So I requested that I needed a proper accounting of how much he has disbursed to the individuals, and he adamantly said that he's not going to do that, that it is insulting for us to sit here in the diaspora and he is running from one hotel to another with police officers chasing him, and we're asking him to give us a proper accounting of the money that we've given to him. And I said no. He quoted the Cameroonian terrorism law that if there is any link between us with the money that we're giving him, he might be criminally liable within that legal framework. And I said no, I think our general agreement has been the families are the ones who are sponsoring this trial. So if you can publicly defend the detained leaders, and you can publicly speak about them, I do not see anything wrong for you to give us an accounting of the monies we're giving to you. So it became so bad, and to the point where even Sako was, we did not know what to do, to be very honest. The executive assistants to the AP Sako, Mr. Sebastian Bariku, actually drafted a letter for us to send to Barrister So that it's unacceptable that we provide him money, and he will refuse to provide us a proper accounting on what was done with the money. So I told him not to do it, that I would have Barrister Shufai, who is the one of the lawyers who is in jail with President Sissoco Julius Ayoktabe, and the president himself, to try to talk to him and sort this out, because myself, Bisako, and Sebastian could not bring ourselves to engage him publicly, because we understood the chaos that could have ensued from that public engagement, and it would have been very difficult for our people to reckon with the fact that this individual of high public integrity, of a high public profile, can be a subject of our tussle about money being dispersed to him and the role that is playing with the lawyers on the ground. I had these complaints even with one of the Nigerian lawyers, Honorable Abdul Oro, on his treatment by Barrister So. So that is how I got His Excellency Sissoco Julius Ayoktabe and Barrister Shufai to intervene. And they came in and decided that, okay, we cannot continue to disburse the people hard-earned money without us giving them a proper report on who is receiving this money and why are these individuals receiving the money. So what we're going to do, we're going to appoint a case administrator, that all the funding will be directed to these case administrators, and every lawyer that shows up would have their token and sign up, pick up their little support from that case administrator. I think that is where the problem started. Hell break loose with Barrister. So he got so furious that a person of his capacity as a lead defense lawyer should not be standing online to collect money from the case administrator. And I think the breakdown continued from there to the point when Seseko went out and announced the reconstitution of his government of January 5th, 2018, prior to his adoption. And I think with this build-in of animosity between Nso and him already, I think Barrister went out on TV and said he was not consulted. And I think they had a meeting, and His Excellency President Seseko Ayoktabe told him that you are not my personal lawyer. Even if you are my personal lawyer and an advisor, I think I still have the right to accept your counsel or not. You are the lawyer of the Naira 10, and you are representing all of us. You are not representing me as an individual. I never met you. I never knew you. I did not even contract you as the lawyer of the trial. The IGD. So the suggestion out there that he fired Barrister Nso falls flat in his face. One, he did not hire Barrister Nso. The interim government hired Barrister Nso. He does not even have the power to fire Barrister Nso. He can disagree with this Barrister Nso, but Barrister Nso represents all of them. So it was some kind of a facade for lack of a better term to use, for me to see Barrister Nso step out and put out this kind of damaging information. And besides, even the information that he is talking about, that Seseko is compromised because he has evidence, and that evidence is going to stick in his stomach, it is just laughable. Fellow Southern Cameroonians, there are individuals within this struggle that we have to pay close attention. This information that Barrister Nso, Chris Anu, former AP Sako have been peddling out there and has manipulated a lot of our folks, even within the interim, his present defunct interim government. I was there. I see a lot of people complaining, oh, there are 73 people in the government. It doesn't matter. To me, it doesn't matter, because I know majority of them will be doing nothing just to fill in the positions to satisfy people that have been clapping for him, people who believe that maybe belonging to a government position in a virtual government is really, really very, very important. This information about him being compromised came from Ellie Smith. Ellie Smith is the one who said Seseko is talking to Emmanuel, the lawyer of Barrister, His Excellency President Seseko Julius Ayoktabe, and there were false claim that a check has been written in the amount of 500 million to be disbursed by a third party to His Excellency Seseko Julius Ayoktabe, and once this check was delivered by the Treasury, then Seseko was going to come out and call for a ceasefire. I mean, it is beyond the realm of possibility that the incompetent fellows in Yaoundé would be that dumb to say they are going to bribe somebody and they will leave a trail by writing a check from their treasury, which means somebody had actually prepared the paperwork, submitted the information to the treasury, and they were going to write a check to Seseko Julius Ayoktabe. And then come to find out that that information was bogus. AP Sako knows that Ellie Smith himself had recounted on that information that there was no check written, that Seseko is not compromised, that the information was flimsy. I think even Ellie Smith has indicated that Barrister John Funso was childish to even go out with that information when they have not received any additional proof that this actually happened. So you can see the level of intrigues on what is going on. Now Barrister Nso knows about what happened, AP Sako knows what happened, but they cannot bring themselves to tell the people the truth that this is what is transpired. It is sad. it is really sad that we've come to this point. So that is the situation with Pakistan. So it's about the money, and it's about his frustration that he was not getting his way. So Siseko did not even, in the first place, he disliked even getting involved until we had to plead with him, because that was our last resort. That was the only person, because we determined with Sako himself that the only person that would bring him to order was President Siseko Julius Ayutabe and the lawyers in Kundigin, because they are the clients, and that is what we did. For anybody to suggest anything contrary to that, is that lie would fall flat in his face. So this is what happened with Pakistan. So we have to put these things into perspective. Why did this happen? How it happened? And what are the consequences? So I would leave you people to make a judgment by yourselves. It is not my place. I will present the facts. I'm going to present all the records of what I have provided as far as Pakistan is concerned. Now, the next gentleman is Chairman Cometa, who has been an old hand in this struggle. We were personally, like I said, I became like one of his advisors, somebody who speaks to him, and I've always advised him, please, you have to understand that with the leadership in jail and the situation that is happening right now, you have a unique position to always try to be in a neutral position where you can seek for compromise and try to bridge the gap within the various opinions and the differences within the interim government as a whole. But I am saddened to say, not only am I disappointed with the role that he has played with the present imbroglio that has characterized the recent ongoings within the struggle, but he is the pivotal figure. He is the determining person that caused His Excellency Siseko Julius Ayutabe to even get to the point of deciding to recall the government. I mean, even before we had access to the leadership in jail, as early as April of last year, Chairman Cometa called a meeting into his house with AP Sako, Sebastian Bariku, Siseko Ebini, and myself, that he was disenchanted and disappointed with what Sako was doing, and that we needed to talk. I think Siseko Ebini on that day felt really shocked, because to him, myself and Chairman Cometa, who were in Morris with him and now in the IG structure, he started feeling that we were appointed, and we somehow developed this persona that we are bigger than everyone, the government is bigger than everyone. But he felt the pain that we were going through, that we had a lot of difficulties. That meeting alone, summoned by Cometa against Sako, really was the beginning of my problem with AP Sako. I think in that meeting, that is where he made it very clear that his target was the complete evisceration of any real power coming from South Africa. I think he went up to the point of making it clear that his spirit is telling him that he should stay away from Comrade Milan Atam and anybody associated with Milan Atam. I think that is when you started seeing the cleaning house of anything to do with South Africa, because the spirit of AP Sako told him that I do not want you to have anything associated with Milan Atam. So Milton has to go. That is when we started having the problem with him concerning the appointment of the director of my trip to Boyer, that I'm going to talk subsequently. in that meeting, he made some really stunning pronouncements that, hey, even the director of my trip to Boya, to him, that was his cash cow. She was there as long as she's bringing him the money, he feels comfortable with her. Not because the role she was playing or as an individual, if as an individual she would have been gone. But so long as the Jews keep coming in from what she is doing, she would use her in that role. And these things are not being said because I intend to really try to undermine him. No, these things were said in the presence of these individuals. So we left that meeting hoping that we had made some strides to try to redirect him. I think in that meeting there was a concern with his appointment of Dr. Santos as a spokesperson, because there was a lot of outcry about his performance or something like that. I know personally he told me he appointed Santos as a counterweight to Secretary Chris Anu, because Secretary Chris Anu was the only one who actually contested and campaigned to be the interim acting president when the leadership was adopted. And once Sako won the election, he felt that Chris would not be listening to him, so he needed somebody that he can remote control and manipulate at the presidency. So here comes the presidential spokesperson, Santos. So we left that meeting, but I was surprised that his own executive assistant called me and said, AP Sako is mad with me that myself and Bini organized that meeting because we are against him. And I was stunned. I had no clue about the meeting. Cometa called me about the meeting. So this goes back, I think a couple of months later, we had a second meeting at Cometa's place about Sako. And I think in that meeting, that is when the decision to move Dr. Santos from the Undersecretary of Health to the Secretary in charge of a relationship with the Restoration Council. I know this infuriated Comrade Santos so much that in the fight between him and the Secretary of Health, Ms. Kalesh Bongo, the AP sided with him. But what he failed to understand that he had outlived his usefulness to AP Sako, and then the spokesperson position was no longer necessary. They have him and Chris had began to sort out a rapprochement, and they were feeling comfortable with one another. So that was the second meeting that Cometa complained about Sako. And I think the third meeting was either in December or November. Now we brought in Professor Carlson Anyangwe from South Africa. Molan Joel Lutumbe was at that meeting. Governor Etchu was at that meeting. Seseko Bini was at that meeting. Ngei Toyan, Under Secretary for Foreign Affairs, was at that meeting. Governor Etchu was at that meeting. Ban Dangam was at that meeting. Prince Kaffine was at that meeting. I think Dr. Helena Konji and Victorine Bolanga was at that meeting. This was a meeting for us to try to provide some guidance to him as far as the direction of the struggle, because he said he was frustrated with what Sako is doing and something needs to be done about Sako and all of that. I think Mola, as a senior citizen, Mola Njoli to my senior citizen, was so furious that you cannot call people to talk about the AP when the AP himself was not there. So, but anyhow, that meeting was held. Some brilliant ideas were put together and submitted to Cometa for the Restoration Council's consideration, which up to now has not happened. And then come the APNC, and he was first against it, and then later on he was for it. He even got me to decide to go to the APNC. We drove with him to the APNC. When we got to the APNC, I told him, you got to watch what you say, because anything that you say in this very toxic environment would be held against you. But he went out there and in the moment exploded and put out all of this information concerning AP Sako, and he was hailed. But we left that meeting at around 10 p.m. And I told him that the emotion that I'm seeing here, there will be a lot of confusion if they end up calling for the removal of AP Sako. So I sent in private messages to I think Dr. Professor Ambe, Ms. Bolanga, I think one other person, and pleaded with them that whatever they're going to do there, they should leave AP Sako alone. Not because they don't have a right to what they're doing, but I just found that throwing that whole thing in the mix of it by calling for his removal is just going to ignite a lot of the unnecessary bickering that we have now in this struggle. So we left and came back, and there was this outcry. Chris went and attacked me, and we agreed that I was going to present at the Restoration Council. But besides all of that, what really stands out is when immediately we got access to the leadership in jail, Chairman Cometa speaks to the president nearly on a daily basis. And the consistent and persistent message is Sako is a problem. Sako has to go. The only reason that Sako is still there is because we have not found somebody to replace him. To the point, even when Sako made the 73 man or 76 man cabinet appointment, he told Seseku that they are not going to vet that cabinet. Is not going to fly. It is so big, and somebody like Ellard, who had used profanity against Comrade Christoph Messner, does not deserve to be in the cabinet. And I think he went and pointed out that, listen, not even all the counties are represented. I personally told him that I do not have a problem with it if it is going to move Ambazonia forward. I think it's something that he should consider. He said, no, it is not going to happen. So that document itself was leaked to Seseku. It was leaked to me. He gave it to me and said he could not download it on his phone. He said, come over. I went to his place. He said, let me save it. I saved it on his phone. He said, send it to Seseku. I sent a copy to Seseku. Even the audit report, he is the one who gave me a copy and sent a copy to Seseku. And then you see that he had built up Seseku to the point where Seseku was very confident that the Restoration Council was in a tight position with the situation with Sako, and something needed to be done. Even the day that Seseku was going to make that pronouncement, the first Saturday, he was in conversation with Cometa, but he already knew what he was doing. He kept just trying to avoid both Seseku and myself. So, and then it turns out that all this while that he has been pretending to be attacking Sako back and forth, he was really, I don't know up to this moment whether it was a true representation of himself or it was just circumstances that got him to do all what he is doing. So the idea that is being circulated out there that there is a certain South African cabal that had gotten Seseku Ayoktabe to recall the government is not true. I will tell you with facts that he relied on Chairman Elvis Cometa's persistence that Sako had to go. Personally, I advised him against that decision. I said, because just like I did during the APNs, I told that, Mr. President, this decision at this time might be an issue because there will be a lot of noise. Before you realize it, people will not even understand where you're coming from. But with the information that he had, and with the persistence of Chairman Cometa, he was in a better position to make that decision. And as a leader, when a decision is made, it is your right to follow that decision. So, with the turnout of events, I think I can now apologize to him that I think it was right to make that call to reconstitute the cabinet, even though in the beginning I felt a little bit jittery about the outcome. But you should see the role that Cometa played in getting him to make this decision. And I am not going to mince my word. The president knows that Cometa stab him in the back, stab him in the front, stab him on the side. Because it's unacceptable for you to get somebody to think that this is the situation when you know that you were playing double-edged sword. That even right up to February during the president's outreach, when he initially talked to us, that he wanted to reconcile the various factions within the IG, Cometa had written a letter stripping him of authority without even telling him, and had been pretending from February to the moment that we're having this crisis. That is very sickening. Sickening, Chairman Cometa, that you could play this role. And then we are looking for people to blame left and right. We are looking, and then he had the audacity to still tell me that Siseko cannot allow the South African people to dictate for this revolution. Even up to this moment that he knows the cardinal role that he played in getting this guy to recall this government. Are you still pointing fingers at South Africa? You cannot deflect the role you played in this whole mess. So it came down even to me personally with the audit report. I was having all this attack, and I said, okay, let me come and do a presentation to the Restoration Council. Up to this day, that has not happened. When the audit report came out and he leaked that to me, I thank him for that, because Sako did not even know that he had leaked the report to me. Sako presented the report 2 days after to me and said he just had the report, but he had no clue. And those are the type of lies that I detest, that Chairman Cometa had presented the report to me. So I took the report, I read the report, and I told him that this report was not properly done. We need to get an external audit. I will respond to the audit and send it to you and the Restoration Council that this was a direct target on me. And this guy had even made an audio after the audit, and I played the audio to him, and he said there is no way he's going to accept any result from any audit from this guy, given what he has listened in the audio. So to cut the whole long story short, I presented to him my response to the audit. I presented a copy to he said, send a copy to Chris Chopper, the Secretary of the Restoration Council. I called Chris Chopper, I had a conversation with him, presented the response to him, presented a copy to AP Sako, and told him, share it with other cabinet members. But I think that the audit was not done. It should be properly done. Now, all these conversations, I have them on screenshots. So that is the role. We should not look far away where these problems came from. The confusion, a lot of the confusion came from Chairman Cometa. I'm sorry to say it, but those are the facts. Because if he did not engage in this bashing of Sako, telling Sako is the worst thing that has happened, he is tired of Sako. I mean, some of you had heard some of the audios out there, but that is nothing. That you are being pummeled on a daily basis on the shortcomings of this guy when you are in a position or like where His Excellency finds himself. And then you're seeing that your hope lies with an interim government that is going down the drain. And the chair of the Restoration Council is asking you to do something. And then you do something, and then all of a sudden the same chair is presiding over this charade of one communique after another, one press release after another, and given the entire impression that this decision came from South Africa. This is the same excuse that he gave when Milton Tucker was fired. He said no one individual from South Africa should be. It's not about an individual. It should not be about South Africa. But I really don't think that we have any reason to start questioning the commitment of any segment of our population, of our communities engaged in this struggle. So I do not have a bone to pick with the South African people if they're doing what is right for the struggle. I do not have a bone to pick with people on ground zero, neither people on ground one, and neither people in Europe or people in the US and Canada, I think, or even Asia. I think it is only our collective will, our collective desire to succeed that is going to win this struggle for us. So I think our people should understand the role that Chairman Cometa has played in this whole situation that we face right now. Now, I'll go to my so-called former boss, Dr. Samuel Sako. Now, what happened? What happened from the time that he was elected? A lot of people have made all of these stories out here that he abandoned his job and sacrificed for the Ambazonian people. No, he came in at a time when nobody wanted the position. Uh, it is pernicious and strenuously painful to listen to the level of ignorance and to the level of distortions of our people. How could somebody run an election with 4 people and then he still has the temerity to tell people out there that he was the only one available to accept this responsibility? That is far from the truth. That is completely outrageous. And you have a situation where they said, oh, he abandoned his job and all of that. No, AP Sako was not working. I mean, the decision to elect him as a chair should not be based on whether he was working or not. But if this information was known, then you know you are getting somebody in a position where he might be depending on the revolution for subsistence. So he was elected. I'm not going to say he was not, overwhelmingly. And immediately he was elected, then began the process of consolidation. Because the whole idea was, since we had no information on the whereabouts of the leadership, he knew in his subconsciousness that he is the new sheriff in town. I stood there with him and even challenged the people who tried to undermine his authority. I was the one who walked to even present him publicly. I did all the planning because I felt that we needed continuity, even though I disagree with the process. Even though initially I said we should maintain the trial, there was no need to get a face, because I knew that subsequently, given human nature, power corrupts. Somebody can step in there and we're going to be in big trouble when the time comes that the leadership is re-emerges. And this is what we're facing today. This is exactly what we're facing today. So the first thing he did was, all right, Milan has to go. Launch the investigation. I questioned the investigation, as I said before, because I said we do not have the instruments of enforceability. Even if you come up with any findings, there is nothing you're going to do. It's just going to create a lot of the infighting that we see up to this moment. But I think there was a grand design behind that whole thing, because you ended up with an investigation that him alone was privy to the investigator and they find it. I have left the government today, or left that defunct structure of his, and I have not seen that report. I don't think that any cabinet member has seen that report. But it was designed to alienate certain individuals that he felt were potential competitors as far as the face of this struggle was concerned. Dr. Chuayaba was one of them. Ebenezer Akwanga was one of them now, even though now he's married to Ebenezer Akwanga, Dr. Ebenezer Akwanga, and they seem to be in love. Milan was one of them. And so the results of the investigations came out, and you had this communique that he sent out. I think I will have proof of that all of these individuals have been excluded from ever doing anything with the interim government and the Ambazonian revolution. And then you move up to another point where he decided to say, hey, we are going to ban this group because of some happenings in Milan was gone, South Africa was gone, Ayaba was the only one standing. He had already gotten in bed with Akwanga. Yeah, how would he not get in bed with Akwanga? Because Akwanga is the only leader of the collaboration platform after the meeting in Washington, D.C. that actually took a share of his own money. I think it was about $7,000. And then we have paid Akwanga transportation to South Africa on numerous occasions. there is documentation to show that. So you can understand the hanging around of him now being best buddies with Kwanga, because even the day that Chris Anu was reading the banning of Sokadev and all the other entities, we were in a restaurant meeting with Kwanga. So you find it suspect that how can we be this dubious? How can we be this manipulative? Up to today, that decision to withdraw or exclude certain individuals until the commission that sat and decided that these individuals should no longer participate with the IG or in the revolution has not been reversed. But ask yourself today, don't you see the same Dr. Sako with these same individuals? Why is it that Milanatam became the problem? That none of them, Mangan became the problem. Even Nalova became the problem, that you cannot talk to them, but you are talking even to Dr. Ojon Congo, that in your own commission you said nobody should have anything to deal with them. That is the manipulation that we see. That is the intrigues that we see. And those intrigues extended to even the closure of SCBC. So many stories have been told. I don't want to get to the detail of it, but the simple truth is, he who controls communication controls power. And they knew that if South Africa was controlling the communication of this interim government, just imagine that now that we are faced with this divided structure, what would have been happening with their communication? So they knew we were going to get to this time, so they had planned for this time. So nobody should think that these things were just falling out of nowhere. Okay? These things are not just falling out of nowhere. So, and then there is a lot that has been said about his mismanagement of my trip to Boya. I am not going to say that he squandered my trip to Boya money. I am not going to say that he ate my trip to Boya money. There is ample evidence where the money went to. It is our responsibility to ask what was done with that money. I indicated that a lot of the money why did I say the money went through the presidency? Now, there were so many complaints coming from Ground Zero that money was not getting to the intended destinations. And I was furious with the outfit ASC through the Department of Homeland Security. And I got to the point where I said I was not going to disburse any money, even if he approves it, to that structure. The ASC folks, they know very well. They were angry with me. They even took me out of their forum. And for me, I care less. I knew that the most important thing, if I'm getting results on Ground Zero, I am fine with that. I don't need to belong to any of these forums. And the same way I treated DOD back then, and I refused to give the money because of one reason or the other. So once we got into that situation, the former AP Sako stepped in and said, you know what, instead of sending the money to the people here in the diaspora, let the money go through my office, and we will now send the money and then inform the commanders here or their representatives here in the diaspora. And I said, okay, then I would have somebody to actually hold responsible. Not that I did not try to make sure that I address the situation. A lot of people just open their mouth and say, oh, they spend money without him saying anything. No. You have to understand the situation that I tried my best to make sure that this money was properly disbursed. So I was confident that I know exactly where the money is leaving from me and getting into than saying I gave it to ASC and then nobody is answering, and I was not even in their forum. So I was comforted with the notion that, okay, pass this money through my office through his executive assistant, Mr. Sebastian Bariku. So moving on after that decision was made, all the money went to his office. I think it is incumbent upon him to now order his office to give a detailed account of what happened with that money. I think my role ended where I could tell the people that this amount left from here, which I'm going to do, to this destination, and let that destination indicate to the people that this is what left my decks and went to the final destination. Except we can do that, we're going to be going round and round, people making outrageous and outlandish accusations without any proper knowledge of what transpired. Now, on his personal spending, I am going to put a lot of the records out. Trust me, from the first day that AP Sako came to my office here, back then I had no clue that he was not working. And when he got in, he said, SOS, listen, you know, I was not ready for this huge responsibility that has been given to me. I will need some support to get started. My car is broken down. I have not filed for my citizenship. I will need to do that now because that would now permit me to travel. And given the circumstances that with what happened with our leaders in Nigeria, I felt that, listen, it is the right thing to do to try to get him in a more secure situation than just leaving it in this situation. So I said, all right. The first check that I issued him was check for $1,345, about $400 for the that he requested to fix his car, and then about $945 or so that he said he was going to file for the citizenship. So that was the first check that I gave him, and I think I have a record of that. I think that probably will go into our Ambazonian museum or in Boya someday for us to look and see what efforts we made. And then the security team, I think it was Mara Tugong, the former coordinator for the DMV, and his executive assistant, Sebastian Bariku, who came to the office and said where he lives is very dangerous. And given the security situation with the Francophones or the La Republic government trying to target our leaders, it would be dangerous for us to allow him to live in that neighborhood. I think I basically described that like a ghetto neighborhood. That's what I think Sebastian said. I said, well, we cannot agree to fund his personal expenses because we do not have money that we can spend just like that, but we can help him to move. So he came in and said, I said, all right, what is the rent? He said the rent is $2,500. I said we can make half. Now I was saying that we can make half for him to move because I was under the impression that he, with his qualification, he should be somebody who is doing something. So I was just amazed that with that, the very first month, the total amount he spent was close to about $5,000 something. I'm gonna put out the records for everyone to see. So these are things, not things that I am saying because I intend to try to call into questions his personal integrity. Even down the road, I felt that given the commitment and the situation, we could at least assist with the rental expenditures. Because I said if His Excellency Sisi Kwayo comes out today and it's not working, it is our duty to also make sure that they're well taken care of. So I could stomach the idea about us helping to offset his rents, but I cannot stomach the fact that we are paying for a car note that we do not even possess the car. So I am going to ask the Ambazonians, if we were paying a car note on his behalf, that should be a personal asset of the Ambazonian people. So it would be for him to present us with the title of that car, because once he's relieved of his duty, the assets that belong to the people should normally be returned back to the people. So, and then you're looking personal expenses, online purchases that I could not really explain. And when I asked for this clarification, I think Dr. Tata, one of the security guys that basically lives with him, I think it's Johnson Tata or somebody like that. This is an individual who charges us $50 every time that he went out with AP Sako that we have paid. And I can understand why they have this deep attachment, because there's a benefit accruing to whatever they're doing. Dr. Tata, when I raised the question about the expenditure, Dr. Tata retorted and indicated that, listen, the presidency controls finance, and finance does not control the presidency. So I was stunned. I said, well, how do I solve this problem? With all the purchases going, Dr. Tata was going to the point of even making deposits that I don't even know. Sometimes I just see money in the account, and that prompted me to make some of the entries as unknown, because I was clueless with some of the things that were going on. So I got to the point of frustration where I had his executive assistant, Mr. Sebastian Bariku, to issue a letter to the entire presidency that they should not make any purchases, because Dr. Tata was basically purchasing stuff on a daily basis online that I had no explanation. And now I'm doing the entry as an accountant. It is very difficult for me to actually tie these expenses to a line item, whether they were assets or they were just regular expenditures. I see purchases, Walmart, Amazon, Best Buy, all of these frontline departmental stores here and electronics stores here in the US that purchases worth thousands of dollars, close to $30,000-$40,000 that I cannot explain. And I think there is nothing wrong to ask for my AP Sako that please explain and show us receipts. These things that were bought, they went to the point of even buying for bulletproof, that up to today they are not using the bulletproof. They are not. Now, the government is spending this money. They create a site, a show they call the President's Corner, Ambazonia for Ground Zero, that they were raising money, and these same individuals were given money to the president. So not only I am giving him this way, or he's spending this way, because trust me, no request was ever sent to me from the presidency. Every order, cabinet department sending their request, and I'm going to put a sample of the request. And we agreed within the internal policies and procedures that were adopted by the interim government that I can only approve up to $2,000. Anything above $2,000 should be forwarded to the AP or the president for approval. And as I indicated, he had approved more than 95% of the total disbursement that we made. I think it is his duty, even if I did not keep the records, for him to keep his own records. That now you can call him and say, are you sure you disbursed this money, so that he can corroborate those records with me. It is fanciful for anyone to now say, oh, the onus is on you, brother, you did not present records, and he himself goes out to foolishly tell the people that, oh, you did not present records to me. You approve all of these invoices. These invoices are supposed to be with you. You should have a record of what was done. So and then looking at that spending spree, who would not be conscious that with the difficult situation we have on ground zero, we would not be conscious to phantom the idea that you are living here in Maryland and you will rent a car from Enterprise for $1,000. You will live in a hotel with the entire security apparatus that would spend thousands of dollars when the IG is already paying a home for you in Maryland. I raised that question. I raised that argument with his executive assistant that this is unacceptable. I mean, it got so bad that Mr. Sebastian Bariku himself took the debit card that he had and he destroyed the debit card. He destroyed the debit card. I mean, how would I feel comfortable to see that Enterprise, we are paying $1,000 something to Enterprise, and people are comfortable with it? You got this series of one thing after another, the lies after another. You got the manipulations, but at the end of it all, I saw his desire. I saw his desire too, that he felt the pain of our people. I am not going to fault him that he didn't do nothing. He tried his best. I am not going to say he raised a single objection to the amount of money that we spend for the legal defense. I give it that to him because he approved all those expenditures. So I'm not going to say, oh, from the beginning I will say he really did not want the leaders out, even though events now are now trying to make me question my conclusion that if he actually sincerely, or maybe just because I was there, and I think that was one of the motivating factors that I said I'm going to be here and everything, and he shifted all of it to me. But you begin to see the lies. You begin to see after Milan is gone, Joe Ayaba was the next in line that had to go. The Secretary of Department of Homeland Security, Mr. Egiawan, whom I think up to now we have really not, the monies that was sent to him said they're going to buy uniforms in Douala. Up to today, nothing has shown up. Started this build up of the falsehood of the fabricated intelligence that Joe Ayaba was compromised. He had to go, and all of this ended up with the situation in Batibo. And then boom, he came with the ban. I objected to the ban in principle, not because I support Comrade Chwayaba, but you cannot begin to issue a ban in a virtual government with no instruments of enforceability. That was the dumbest idea as far as I was concerned, because I said at the time, if these guys are even smart, now that you've put a ban on all of them, and they can go out there on ground zero and say, hey, we're going to do the kidnapping, we're going to ask for ransom, and we say, hey, we're not on the ground zero. It is the IG that is on ground zero. The IG has all the control on ground zero. But these are the calculated steps to make sure that you and you alone is the main determinant figure in this revolution. But that was wrong. And I would tell you, a lot of people say, oh, you didn't say nothing now that you left the government. No. I think even them in that government would know that I, Brado, would not sit quiet. And I think I became like a pariah in the government, just because I felt that things were not done right. I mean, not out of spite for him or any reason of that nature, but things were not done right. And then once you have a leader, with me working with him and working with Julius Ayoktabe, I have come to the observation that one is a leader who loves delegation and believes in the ability of people to work with less supervision or less involvement. And the other one, AP Sako, believes that he knows everything. He's Dr. Common Sense. He can do everything. He moves into defense with the AAC and DOD. We got chaos over there. He moved into finance, chaos. He moved into even the collaboration with a former Chemlio, Secretary Chemlio. There was chaos. He moved into the legal aspect of this struggle. There was chaos. Even Barrister Mbeshia felt that he was being used. I have him on a screenshot that he was being used by AP Sako, and Sako thinks that he will use him and dump him. When the AP Sako walked into Foley Hall and entered into agreement with Foley Hall without even consulting with his own lawyers. The document was sent to Barrister Timothy Mbeshia to sign. Barrister Mbeshia thought he was reviewing the document, only for Foley Hall to tell him that no, we have already completed the signing of this document. It was just for your own records. And now we're back with Foley Hall, paying them all this money, and then to the point where they even got us taking us for a ride. That IEM came and lied to the cabinet that Foley Hall had resolved all the cases concerning the other bogus guy in California and Salai, that Salai would no longer threaten or disturb any Ambazonian. Only a few weeks later, for the same IEM to be asking for contributions to support Secretary Chris. And when I asked him, did you not just say that Foley Hall that we're paying all this money had solved all of these problems and we would not be disturbed anymore? Did you not say that? And so, how did Brado become a problem? Because I decided to say the focus should be our people are on ground zero, not only infighting and trying to game the situation. It is proper for our people to see. For former AP Sako to come out and say, oh, there was a breakdown of communication with the that is just like Trump would say, that is a big fat lie. Because he has been the one who was talking to him almost on a daily basis. I was part of this meeting. I organized the meetings with all the various arms of government here. The day I organized a meeting with him and the cabinet, he came alone. I was so stunned because when he got to that meeting, he indicated to the president that, listen, I've already sent you a lot of the audios. So this will just be a brief review. I sat quiet all over that meeting. And then now the people out here in the cabinet say, oh, Seseku disrespected the cabinet, did not hold a meeting with the cabinet, did not realize that it was AP Sako who did not give them the opportunity to meet with the cabinet. Even after the president met with the cabinet and told the cabinet about what happened, they still went ahead to lie that he did not do it. Was it a calculated attempt to begin this process where we see right now with the ridiculous show of ignorance of even the proper procedures that Barrister So would have to be ferried from Cameroon to come and explain the process of impeachment, for them to impeach somebody who is in a position that cannot defend themselves. And you have most of these armchair activists, some of these charlatans, commenting on things that they have little or no knowledge, commenting on half-truths and the innuendos, the falsification that has been supplied to them. I was stunned when Barrister So came to my office and told me that the AP had told him that Brado is sitting on top of my trip to Boya and is waiting for Seseku to be released before they can spend the money. It was so embarrassing, and I worried. And I said, if this guy who has been signing these checks could lie to this old man from Cameroon, what else could he have said out there? And I know I've had information on the lies that he had peddled when he went to Germany for the ASSC. I refused not to go to the ASC because I knew, from my own numbers, I knew what was the outcome. I knew it was not about ground zero. They made all the noise it was about ground zero. How many months today, nobody's talking about the outcome of Berlin and related to raising money for ground zero and changing the game in ground zero. The killing that they deployed, that they could not host a meeting in February. A meeting was only due in March. The killings have not reduced. So I said, it doesn't make any sense for you to get 300 Ambazonians because they were projecting that it was going to be 500 or 1,000 Ambazonians to show up in Berlin. And I said, at $500 each, we are looking at maybe spending on flight, accommodation, and feeding to go to that conference about $500,000 spent by Ambazonians for a 2-day or 3 days event. And we would not be able to raise even $30,000. And I spoke like the oracle. It ended up that we could not even raise that amount. A lot of the people who went and raised money put it in pledge. Because Europe is different, like from the continental US. A lot of these guys in Europe are still struggling. But you get beaten down like, oh, you have been the cause of most of these problems. I'm not saying that I did not play a role in some of what we're facing, but you see some of these things coming and you try to seek for solutions. But yet, you end up being like somebody who is the troublemaker. So Ambazonians could choose whatever they want to do with the now defunct AP. For me personally, everybody can go ahead and begin to do their stuff. It doesn't matter. From just people should stop these smear campaigns. I'm putting this information out. I'm going to put some of the pages and the financial statement for people to see. And contrary to the faulty information that is being circulated out there, that Brado refused this, Brado that, let the facts and the chips fall where they're supposed to fall. If there is anything that I have done wrong, I am open for the people to hold me accountable, but do not try to impugn on my integrity and on my character when you do not have the information. I have always told people, listen, I am available. Call me if you do not have information. Instead of you basing your arguments on the scanty facts that you have been provided, please call me and I will provide you with the reliable information that you would deserve. Now I know I know a lot of people, or a lot of you, the viewers and the listeners, might be wondering, but all of these things were going on in government. Why didn't you resign? Why didn't you quit? Yes, I got into a point where I told him I wanted to quit. He came to my office here in December. I told him I needed to go. And I told him, just complete the audit and I would go, because I don't see what I'm playing here, because the intrigues from my own department with the people that you're setting up in my department, with the confusion that role that you're playing in causing a lot of the toxic discourse that is ongoing. I don't think I want to operate in this environment. And I even told His Excellency President Julius Ayoktabe, when we had access to him, that, listen, Mr. President, I am tired of this lunacy. I need just to step back. Maybe somebody can come in and bring in some new perspective, because I don't want to be in a position where you are putting your all, you're sacrificing. I'm not sleeping. I'm basically, sometimes I go out and spend the almost entire weekend out of the house, holding meetings, just to make sure that things get done right. I have sat quiet just to make sure that things get done right. But at a certain point, you get burned out to the point where you want to walk away. But you look back and you say, how would you walk away in the midst of this pain and suffering of our people? How can you abandon those who gave you their trust? Try to fix things before you leave. And that is why, even after Seteko reconstituted his government, if the government was not reconstituted, I would have been so happy not to even deal with the situation. And not because I was running away, not to like some people say he has refused to do the audit. I'm going to talk about the audit. No, that's not true. But at a certain point, you should learn, and that is what we should encourage in Ambazonia. When you feel that you are no longer useful, or you feel that your position has become either controversial or divisive to your role, it is proper for you to take a break. That is the kind of mindset we should encourage in our future nation. So I am going to now move to talk about the audit. All the invoices, the amount of money that was spent, and all of that. I am going to put those screenshots and the slides together for your review. I will be releasing even some of the minutes of the meetings that we had for people to make an informed and educated assessment of what has happened. Now, the infamous or the famous audit. I know by now some of you must have seen the information that is being circulated out there as far as the audit is concerned. Initially, I was accused of refusing to provide the income and asset information to permit the auditor complete the general audit, and that prompted unfortunately Secretary Chris, who also had very little information on what was going on, to go out and attack me that I am sitting on information, and I was the person doing the collection, the disbursement, and the treasurer at the same time. I think my previous presentation had provided some clarifications on that, and debunked most of the lies that have that were being perpetuated by him. But I know that he could not have done that without the blessings of AP Sako. So I raised the issues in the cabinet. Once Chris attacked me, Sako came out and put out a letter trying to reinforce the position of Secretary Chris, and I was forced to now go out and defend myself. I think we all know what happened. He put out an executive order which was laughable, and called for an immediate audit and gave a time frame. Had this guy, a certain Dr. Metuge, another lousy fellow, to fly from England to the US to do an internal audit. I mean, little did I know that the focus was me and my department, which I do not have any qualms with. I just believe that if it's done right, it's for the general benefit of Ambazonia. And if he had consulted me as the head of department about the need for this audit, I would have told him that a single individual could not complete this audit, and even within the given time frame. But I was not consulted because everything was done to show that Brado had not completed the audit in the first quarter, the second quarter, the third quarter, and even the fourth quarter. And again, that is even misrepresented and a complete distortion, because even our own internal policies and procedures do not require an audit every quarter. I think there's a complete lack of understanding on quarterly financial reports with audits. Even the quarterly financial report, as I earlier indicated, the the first quarter, which we came in, which was chaotic, the abduction and all of that, I succeeded in even buying the software at the end of March. The first quarter was already gone. I had that information put in. Second quarter, I had that information put in up to I gave a financial report to the current VP, Daphne Yerima, who was supposed to take it to the UN, United Represented People Organization, UNPO. I gave him an uncompleted financial report because the expenditures from the presidency were not made available to me. And I think that dragged on until finally we had those reports, bundled some of the information because I did not end up receiving the proper clarification on the nature of the expenditures at the presidency. So a lot of the information that you see on the financial statement and even on the audit, that they say supplies, I cannot exactly say what was bought with those supplies. But, and that is why I insisted that whatever audit we are going to do, there must be a physical inspections of the records. All the records are available. I reiterate, all the records are available. No one should say that the records were not available. So the auditor, the president asked that I should buy a flight ticket for the auditor. I bought a flight ticket. He got here on a certain Monday. On Tuesday, he called me. He said he was tired. I said he should get a rest, and we should begin the audit process on Wednesday. Unfortunately, on Wednesday, there was a heavy snowstorm in Maryland, so we could not meet. But I told him that we're not going to allow the day to go by like that. I am going to forward him the income statement for both Ambazonian Foundation and Ambazonian Consulting, which I did. I forwarded him that information. I said he should start reviewing the information and we should meet the next day. So the next day was a Thursday. I drove over to his place in Manrania, where I think it's a certain tribesman or clansman that he was living with. I drove over there, picked him up, drove him to this my office, gave him one of the offices to sit there, and gave him all the bank statements, gave him all the invoices and some of the wire transfer documents in a black plastic bag. And then I went into QuickBooks and printed out the accounts by customer and income by customers, and then expenditure by vendors, because I entered the vendors, the departments as vendors, and then the money that was coming in as customers. That's just for the software, so I could actually identify where and when the money was spent. So I gave him all of this information, and I told him that if there is anything that you need, please do not hesitate to ask. I have that in a WhatsApp message. I will show that. If there is anything that you need, anything that I don't have, please talk to the auditor. Do you have his number? He told me that yes, he has the number of the auditor, Dr. Helena Kongi. I said, okay, that's fine. So I left him. I had something to do. I had a business meeting I had to attend. So I said, okay, I'm going to leave you in the office and I will be back. But if I'm not back, please just leave the door. I will come back and then I will close the door. But I closed my main office door. So he was there. He was in the office till about 7 p.m. And then Sebastian called for Uber for him. And the Uber picked him up from my office and he left. After he left, we only talked on the phone and through WhatsApp. And I think Sako had met with him twice while he was here. I think I can remember something very carefully that he said, that we just need to do this quick audit, because I complained to him. I said, there is no way you're going to finish this audit in 8 days. And if I knew this was the case, I would have advised the president not to say 8 days, but I was not consulted. I said, because you would have to talk to all of these departments, and they will have to provide you with information that, yes, Brado gave us 300,000, and this is how we spend the $300,000. And I don't see you completing that job within 8 days. I mean, irrespective of the fact that these are just income and revenue, that, and I have entered all of the information, I have reconciled all the information. He said, well, that is okay. The treasurer called me and said the auditor had called her, and wanted to meet with her, that he wanted the records of the cash app. And then he later asked that there is another account, the Ambazonia Foundation, that is a deposit for the monies from Braintree and I think PayPal. And I said, well, I do not have all of that information. The treasurer has that information. When you meet with the treasurer, anything that I have not provided to you, please ask it from the treasurer. She will provide that to you. And I instructed the treasurer, please provide anything that the auditor is going to ask from you. So he completed everything here and he left. And I knew that everything was okay. I was only surprised that he got to Europe and called one of my family. He didn't know that I was connected to that individual, and started talking about me and the audit and all of that. And I was stunned. I said, I did what I had to do. There is nothing that I did not do. Even if I did something, it is his position to tell me that, Brado, I didn't get this information, I need this information. But for him to be talking like this, something is not right. But I said, I'm not going to, I called the AP and I told Cometa, I told the AP that I wanted him to listen, but I'm not going to allow that to undermine the audit. I'm not going to make a big fuss about it, because I have the data. Nobody is going to change the data. If I can show you that I received $1 million, I spent $1 million, I can show you where the $1 million went to. That is where my responsibility ends. There is nothing that I am hiding. And I must not go out there and tell the whole world that this is the situation. So I was confident. So he won. I sat me quiet. I didn't make a big deal out of it. I didn't even tell him that this is what you wrote against me. So I around the 15th, the report came out. Even before that, some the previous incompleted report that he wrote, the previous incompleted report that he wrote came out, and he basically accused me of putting this report out. And I was stunned. I'm like, you did not even give me the report. How would you now say that I put this report out? So there was a whole lot of noise within the government and all of that. So on the 15th of March, he submitted the report to AP Sako. And AP Sako quickly created a forum for him, Professor Ayim, Chris Chopper, and Chairman Elvis Cometa to review the audit. I think that is when Cometa quickly said, but he did not tell them. He was thinking to himself, we're going to talk about the audit, and the person who is actually at the center of the audit is not in this forum. So he called me and forwarded that information to me, and I look at it and I said, Chad, this is what this guy has done. So it was all about Brado, because I'm looking at the report and it was terribly done. It was inept, and I have never seen such a lousy report. And I'm asking, because I didn't question his qualification, I don't know his background, but does this guy really know what an audit is? Who even does an audit and put the entire general ledger of the entity that they are auditing out? You need a summary report of whether it's an adverse opinion or not. What is going on? So Cometa, Chairman Cometa sent me that report, and I stayed quiet. I did not say nothing in the cabinet. I just read it and I sat quiet, and I was planning that I was going to respond. So AP Sako 2 days later sent me the audit report and said, we need to talk. Let's find time and talk about this audit. I am busy today. So I responded to him that I am surprised. I don't know why the report was presented to him. I don't know why the report was presented. I don't know why the report was presented to him instead of to me. And I think that we are not doing administration in reverse. As the head of the department, if they are auditing the entire government, the report is supposed to be submitted to me. We will review that with the internal auditors, and then we present it to the president with our recommendations. But now, report was submitted to you. You submitted the report to the Restoration Council, and he said, "Oh, no. He just got the report." And I was just laughing at myself that he did not know that I already saw the report 2 days before he was telling me that bold-faced lie that he just got the report. I said, okay, but I don't know what I'm going to sit and talk with you about this report. I now understand that the report was targeting Brado and the Department of Economy and Finance. I do not have a problem with it, but I will respond. I will respond to the Restoration Council, and I will respond to you. And I hope that you will share that results with the other members of cabinet. So I responded, and I sent it to Cometa. Cometa said, send it to Chris Chopper. I sent it to Chris Chopper, and I sent it to AP Sako. And I spoke to Chris Chopper, and I was just baffled by the cavalier nature that he responded to me concerning the audit. And I said, what am I going to do? I said, okay, I'm just going to wait. And his response turned out to be an indication of the way he treated my response, because they ended up sending a series of questions after the cabinet had decided to recall the audit from the Restoration Council to me. And if they had read my response to the audit, the questions that they were asking in that request for clarification from the Restoration Council would not have been put forward, because there were clear answers in there. But regardless, I also ignored it. I didn't read it. I said, I didn't pay attention to say I'm going to respond to it. Why will I be responding to request for clarification when I have submitted a response to the audit to the Restoration Council and nothing was done? So there was a lot of build up with questions about the audit. So the president decided that the cabinet should take a day and discuss the audit. So I said, okay, it is a good thing that the cabinet should take a day and discuss the audit. So on that day that the cabinet was supposed to discuss the audit, before we started, I pleaded with the cabinet that, listen, I have 2 questions that I need to ask to the president and the auditor before we can start with the audit. It is only when we address these 2 questions, then we can now actually determine the direction in which we are going to review this audit. So I was given the floor to do it. So my question to the auditor and the AP Sako was to know whether the audit was a general audit of the entire interim government, or it was an audit targeted at Brado and the Department of Economy and Finance. Now, they didn't know why I asked that questions. And the auditor came and said, oh, it was for the entire government. IM came and said, oh, then we should change the title. Because the title is depicting that the audit was for Brado and the Department of Economy and Finance. And I said, well, the reason I asked that question is precisely what Professor Ayim is saying. The engagement letter, which I'm going to put out a screenshot that he sent to me, said Department of Economy and Finance. The audit report, the title was an audit report for the Department of Economy and Finance. So my question to the auditor was, why do we have all the other cabinet members here? Because in the audit report that I'm also going to put out, you have not commented on any of the departments. That is when it looked like it was already built up against Brado. He exploded. There's a certain other woman that they call Gucci Grace. Is it the Grace Mugabe of Ambazonia? Exploded and say, Brother Tabyenang, who are you? You are so incompetent, and there was just too much noise, to the point where it said, Brado, you are a bastard. The auditor said, I am incompetent. I have never written anything for since I was appointed as a secretary. I have not written any project. I have not raised any money, and I always sit for people to raise money, and I try to spend that I needed to be fired. I'm sitting there asking myself, what exactly am I doing here? The auditor, who is supposed to be an independent-minded person, is now, irrespective of what he said in the audio that I said he said about me, now he's saying that in the open. So I told Gucci Grace, I said, listen, you can, Tabyenang is incompetent, has never done anything. You can take a noose, put it in your neck, and commit suicide, or you can drink gamalin or something. If you feel that I am not, I should be fired and all of that stuff, you run the government now, but you will run the presidency. You're not going to run the department that I am heading until I leave. And I made sure that that did not happen. I made sure that whatever they cooked up in that department, it did not happen until I leave. And that's the reason why I could hold the record. They can see the records, and the records are available. When we organize for a proper audit, the records are available so that everybody should see. I'm not saying anything, these things for people to take me for my word, even though I hold my word with utmost respect and interest. But people should actually see what happened, and that's why I'm going to put out a lot of this information out here for people to see. So the meeting ended up with a note that they are going to, because they themselves got to the point where they agreed with my recommendation that there should be a proper audit, because I think Secretary Christian will complain that how can they do an audit and they show all these hundreds of thousands of dollars on his name, and then he was not even called by the auditor to confirm whether these monies came to him or not. Even Sebastian Baruku also challenged the auditor and said, listen, I spent a lot of the money, but I was not questioned. Even Cometa, who also spent money, also was not questioned. So how can this be an audit? And then you conveniently just comment on the presidency alone. So I took my time to respond to his opinions, his observation, and his recommendations. And the first thing I tried to correct was the audit was supposed to be for the entire government and not for Brado. So they accepted with that and decided that they were going to recall the audit. So that is how up to today the audit has not been released. The cabinet sent a request to the Registration Council that they want to withdraw the audit and conduct a new audit. I think they talked about a committee. The auditor came and was making a lot of noise that there was something I was hiding. I did not provide him the information that he requested, and I said, it is not enough for you to say that I did not provide the information that you requested. Please enumerate the information that you requested from me and it was not provided to you in writing. Anywhere that you requested for that information and I refused providing that to you. Up to today, I have not received that. And I will say it clearly, I have not in any way, in shape and form, tried to present obstacles for a proper audit being done. I think that the auditor was, the job was overwhelming to him. I am not going to say he's incompetent. I don't know his background, but based on the observation and his opinion and his recommendation, I felt that something was not right. He was severely influenced by the meetings that he had with AP Sako. So his very first concern in the audit, he talked about there were so many irregularities, which I told him that, listen, that he lacks a proper understanding of an audit process and did not even ask a single question concerning the internal control structure, because I thought that the first thing you do as an auditor is to understand the financial environment that you're going to be auditing. And the first document that I provided to him was the internal procedures, policies and procedures of the government. That actually spells out the role of the treasurer, how the approval process, how we recognize revenue, and how we recognize expenses. I submitted that document to him, but to my surprise, he did not even review that document. And then he also misstated the period of the audit. Instead of from November 2017 to December 31st, 2018, he said January 2019. And then he also complained about the fact that the very first Ambazonian Foundation account for donations was closed without any balance forwarded. Again, that is not true, because I provided him all the printed hard copies of the statements of the Ambazonian Foundation from when it was open to September when it was closed. Why was even, because once an account is closed, you do not have access online. And I explained that to him, but you do not even need access online when you have the physical bank statement to review what were the financial activities during that period of time. And I think he had some difficulties as far as working with computers. And then because he did not take the time to review those statements, he could not even reconcile the actual balance in the bank accounts, both the Ambazonian Foundation and Ambazonian Consulting. He gave a balance of $31,000, $278.86, 10,000 more than the actual balance. And I, reviewing what he had done, I know exactly where he made that error. But if he had consulted with me before presenting the report to the president, we would have resolved that problem. And when the president took the report, if he had consulted with me before sending it to the Registration Council, we would have resolved some of the problem before he even sent the report to the Registration Council, and we made a ridicule of ourselves. And I knew all of these things was just trying to paint Brado that this is where the problem is. And then he went further to say there were no statements of account for the period for DoD contributions and fundraising from inception to April. And I was just so dumbfounded that he was even going to bring in DoD without even commenting about Department of Homeland Security or the ASC. We did not even spend money with DoD. We disbursed $10,000 to DoD. Immediately the leaders were abducted, and they in turn raised about $3,700 and something dollars. So in essence, we spent just about $7,000 to the DoD outfit. But for him to say from inception, as if the period in which he was auditing included the period of inception of DoD, that he doesn't even know the inception. So it was embarrassing that this is we're like looking for straws to pick and bring in and say, okay, why are we auditing all these other groups and we are not talking about DoD? And besides, even the people who manage the DOD and the SCAPAC account, they are in jail. How would you now ask them questions to say, hey, what happened with this money and all of that? So I thought it was just a distraction from there. And then he said, my trip to Boya was supposed to have a separate account, which was a little bit foolish, because from So my trip to Boya, he said there was it's supposed to be a separate account. It was not there in the beginning. How would he know all of these things? I just realized that this information was given to him by AP Sako, because his desire was to have a separate account that was not controlled by me. But I was firm, and I said, irrespective of how you've alienated me from participating in the planning, the programming, and all of that, I am going to make sure that I see where the money was going to. And he later said that he could not actually state with facts how much money was raised from my trip to Boya. And again, and I'm asking him, I know that Gucci Grace had given him in the leaked audit report that the total amount of money that was raised for my trip to Boya was about $811,000, which is something that I also confirmed with him, that the total amount raised was about $811,000. About 560 something, 80 something online. You take, which I would explain in the my trip to Boya section, which you take the 3.8% that my mobile cost was taking, about 193 that came in from the countries and other regions, and then a couple of other amounts that we raised between myself and the treasurer. So for him to go out and say he cannot state how much was raised because there was no account was just it's dishonest at best, because we can have a single account in the bank, but within the accounting software, we can actually identify that this is my trip to Boya, and we can also expense that this money came from my trip to Boya. That I would show the records on the accounting software, the QuickBooks that we use. So it was a little bit disingenuous for him to make that argument that he cannot in the final audit report that he presented now. Meanwhile, in the first audit report, he clearly made it obvious for people to see. And then he said he did not receive any statements of accounts from the ASC. And I said, I did not present you with any information as given money to the ASC. Why are you asking them for a statement of account? The statement of account has to come from the Department of Homeland Security and the presidency, because these are the individuals that I showed you record that money left from the account, and I knew they were just trying to avoid asking the proper questions. So, and then he also complained about some collaboration, that access to online donations through Southern Cameroon Federal Republic of Ambazonia website, Tessin Levy. This, again, I gave him all of the access. I gave him access to Braintree. I gave him access to PayPal. I gave him access to mobile costs. I gave him access to all the financial statements. And we made a Zoom meeting with him to walk him through signing up into these platforms, and it to me, I find it difficult to even be talking about this kind of flimsy complaints without you dealing into the proper aspect in which the people wanted to know. This amount of money was raised. Where did this money go to? He complained that wire transfers had no book of records, but that is again far from the truth, because I gave him the whole bank statement in a white plastic bag that I'm going to show you, and the any even in the bank statements you will see when you do a wire transfer, they will show the name and the destination of that wire transfer. He had these records. He didn't just do a proper job of reviewing all of these records. And then he complained about sub accounts. How can you be complaining about sub accounts when you open the master account? You have access to all the sub accounts. So he said, well, access was not given to him for all the sub accounts, which to me again it just demonstrated that he did not really understand the banking system here. I mean, I think, and then he selectively within that audit report, I'm just going to try to wrap it up quickly. He selectively only decided to comment on the expenditures of the presidency. He said, oh, traveling, flights, accommodation, car hiring services out of town. But out of town, he forgot that Randers town, where the president lives, is in town. That you have a car with a car, that he owns a car, rentals for enterprise for $1,000. I mean, it is really something that is difficult for you to even fathom. But the entire charade, I call it, of the putative audit, was for him to cast that irrespective of all what people are saying, the president spend money legitimately, which again that would be based on the interpretation of our people. If they sanction the outrageous expenditures that were done, that is their call. It's not a call for Brado. In as much as I could identify that this money was spent by this individual, let the people decide. I am not going to be the judge of that, but I know that you cannot spend close to $130,000 from March to December on average. That is on average about $10,000 that you spent a month in an organization or a government that is struggling. That is just not right. So I am going to tell you guys, I will put the audit report on slides, and you people would see my comments on his observation and conclusions. And at the end, I recommended that there should be a proper audit. When I said a proper external audit, I was insulted by one of my former cabinet secretaries, my brother Itangi, openly asked who is Brado to be calling for an external audit. But today, that's exactly what they're doing. Now they call for that they have set up a committee headed by the same Dr. Metuge as the chair of that audit committee, and then the guy has the audacity to call me and to even send me information that they will need me to be present on a Zoom conference call and talk about the audit, to complete the audit. I'm asking, how dumb can this be? So you did an audit, submitted the audit without being without the audit being completed. What kind of professional are you that you completed an exercise in March? 3 months down the road, you are trying to redo the exercise all over again. And then the individual that you have demonstrably described as inept, ineffective, corrupt, you are going to that same individual to have him come back and collaborate with you in doing another audit. Do you really think that even my 6-year-old daughter will be that dumb? I think she's going to tell me, Daddy, you are really, really dumb if you are going to submit yourself to that. So I have received calls from a certain Tamanjong from the UK, I had a WhatsApp request by a certain Dr. Yaya in Germany. So a certain Dr. Yaya sent me a WhatsApp message that she's been delegated to to talk to me about the coming to testify with the new committee that has been put in place. I did not respond to her. Tamanjong from the UK called, and I think he called on video. We had a chat with him, and I took my time to explain to him some of these things, and I said there's nothing that we are hiding. It's just unfortunate that the auditor did not do a proper job, and I don't think that there is anywhere that you can do a proper audit on a Zoom conference call, because what has transpired, we need people to physically inspect the records. And I do not want to label any false accusation on whether Sako or any of these individuals. Let people see that money went to A, and A has to give an account of what was done with that money. The money that was spent by Brado has holds it as an obligation to also tell the Ambazonians that this is the money that I spend. I spend money for Plan B, I spend money for the lawyers. This is the trail. So you could clear that, okay, this is what went to Brado and this is how he spent the money. So I spoke to Tamanjong at length, and I told him that I would not collaborate with any audit process online. And besides, I have made it very clear within the defunct cabinet that I am not going to participate in any audit process with Dr. Metuge being part of that audit process, because he demonstrated open bias towards my person. And then you would understand that you are engaging in a process that is not only flawed and corrupt, that after doing the hit or the hard check job of Dr. Sako ended up appointing him as the undersecretary in my own the department that I had. So how would you really get a cabinet secretary in his defunct cabinet to chair the audit committee with somebody that the cabinet had already thrown out there to the wolves, that he is the cause of this audit? So all the documents have been provided. I have had this conversation with His Excellency President Sesekwa Yuktabe, with VP Comrade Daphne Yerima, and a couple of some activists. I have made it very clear I do not have any reason to hold on to the records, but if we're going to do an audit that I would feel comfortable, I do not have anything against the representative of the various counties that have been constituted in the said committee. I think it will be proper for us to also send representatives from my own side to be part of that audit. So I'll make it very clear. Brado Tabyenang wants the audit completed so that everybody should be cleared. But we should not go out there and continue to peddle the falsified and erroneous information that Brado is refusing to submit documents to the auditors. The documents that will be submitted to the auditors are the same documents that were submitted to Dr. Metuge Ekome Zoge. There are no new documents, except somebody is going to tell me that we need this document, and I will review if that document was not submitted to him. Then I would look if I have that document available, and I will submit that document to that audit process. So whatever results or whatever opinion or recommendation that the quote-unquote audit committee that they have put together to do an audit that was done and was never presented to the people, please disregard those recommendations. A proper audit must be done so that the records that I'm putting out as far as expenditures are concerned, people should see those records. I am carefully not putting out all the statement, because definitely they're going to say, oh, we have the records. No, I also understand what is going on. There should be a proper audit, and I am ready. It doesn't matter whoever is going to do the audit, but to be sure that I am not going to be taken for a ride and the distortions, we need to get a joint committee to do that audit. So the offer is out there on the table. I have spoken to, like I said, the president and VP Daphne Yerima. They are on board that they would be ready for proper audit to be done by a properly set up committee that is inclusive and represents Ambazonians. It is not any committee that is set up by SACO that I am going to submit in that audit. So for that, I am saying that I would not submit to the committee that has been called up by the defunct AP, Dr. Samuel Sako, to complete the audit. If we're going to do an audit, I would recognize what they have put together and I would send in representation whenever they are ready. I don't even care if Metuge is leading that audit, so long as my representatives are going to be part of that process. So we are open for that conversation, and you, the activists out there who are running your mouth with the jumbled information that Metuge has put together, thinking that that is the right information, you are mistaken. Dr. Metuge jumble up the information. I see some clowns calling themselves Ponilong running around with records that he doesn't even understand the whereabouts of those records. And if you look at it in the audit that was done, I told him about bitcoins that are being run by the webmaster. Nothing about it. Told him about the President Corner account and Ambazonia for Ground Zero. Nothing about it. Nothing was done about it. And then you begin to ask, what was even the purpose of this audit? Oh, just focus on what Brado did and then come out with an empty report. And you can slide that in front of Ambazonians and tell them that, yeah, we've completed the audit. Now, when you realize that even your own supporters question the audit, I know they were questioning the audit because they expected that there were so egregious irregularities and misappropriation of funds. I know Secretary Chris has gone out there and indicated that, oh, there would be massive embezzlement, more than what even happened with Kapa. The auditor did not see all of that, so it was a little bit of a disappointment to some people. Now, nothing happened with that Brado, so now they're calling for the audit. So we are ready. Anytime that they are ready to do a joint audit, please, you know how to get to me, and I am ready to provide the report. These are the bank statements I'm going to show you on these screenshots and all around the pictures. Nobody should say that those statements are not available. Even if the bank statements are no longer available, you can go to the bank and request them. Any transaction that you did through the bank, that information stays there for a long period of time. And even if they no longer have it, you can pay for it and they will still provide that information to you. We are in a more advanced society. It's not a society where you go in and say, oh, we don't have records anymore. The records are available. It is not, do not take me for my word. Anybody who has been banking in this country should know that that is a basic requirement for a bank, that you probably keep those records for 7 years before you destroy the record. And even if they destroy it, they always have archives where they archive those records, and you can always pay to get those records. So that information is there. If information that is pertaining to what I spend, I cannot provide it, maybe for one reason or the other, I would know how to address it, but I can tell that this is money that was spent. So that is the audit report. Nobody should be expecting that this is the total amount of money or things that were done. That the audit report would not tell you that. He did not. He just rearranged the information in an orderly or disorderly format that jumbled up a lot of the information. That's why you have information circulating out there that people like Barrister Bobga have spent $60,000 when he did not even spend $5,000. And you have people questioning, oh, Brado did not provide a report, so it gives room for people to know. It was not my responsibility to provide the report. I am only now talking about this report because one of them actually released the report because he thought he was going, he was attacking me for telling lies that Dr. Sako had sent me the report. And I think Dr. Sako himself talked about the audit. So I think it is open as that the information has been declassified for presentation to the public. So that is the audit report. But now I'm going to go down to my trip to Boya. And I know that everybody is anxiously waiting to know exactly what happened to my trip to Boya. Yeah, I think it would be a surprise to a lot of people to understand that even though I, Brado, was the one who sourced for the mobile cost platform that we use for my trip to Boya, but I got completely sidelined. I was told in my face that the director of my trip to Boya was not answerable to me, he was answerable to the presidency. And the director of my trip to Boya, a certain Gucci Grace, no, don't mind me, I'm just kidding here, came in and said, oh, she wanted to brand the AP. That the AP is a man in town, and I think that is exactly how carefully that the whole idea of the AP being the main sheriff in town got embedded into his head, thinking that he is the alpha and the omega of the struggle because somebody was going to about him. And that set the tension in the treasury, or the supposed treasury that was there. It got to the point because of the power tussle. Unfortunately, Dr. Festus Ndeye, who was supposed to be the chair of that treasury, decided to leave. I still have a communication between myself and him, given the frustration on him thinking I wanted the power, the director wanted the absolute control, and all of this kind of craziness. So the entire fundraising here in the United States and even in Canada was done without my participation. They set up fundraising events without my knowledge. Nobody informs me. I just hear the AP and a delegation of the security entourage have left for maybe San Antonio, Dallas for a fundraiser, and the next morning how much was raised, I don't know. I just see they go deposit money in the account sometimes. So the only time I actually went out on this my trip to Boya trips was in Philadelphia. That was for the Mid-Atlantic region. And I think Comrade Victorine Bolanga insisted that I had to go. I said, I was a little bit reluctant. I said, listen, I don't want to come across like trying to be an impediment or being a nuisance. If they feel that there is no need for me to be active in this, even to organize people to talk on TV to promote the my trip to Boya, I was completely forbidden from doing that, to the point where even writing acknowledgement letters to the people who collected the money, I was told not to do that. But at the end of the day, it could not be done, so I did that for every individual who gave me their money. They received an acknowledgement letter from me on a timely basis until when I was stopped not to do it. So how did we set it up? When he brought that idea up, even though at the end of the day I knew that limiting ourselves to 2 million and within the time frame was wrong, but I was not consulted. I said, when you gin up the excitement of people, and the whole idea was all the money that was going to come in there was for ground zero. And the refugees and all of that were supposed to wait. And because of that, everybody was excited. and then we basically stopped funding humanitarian activities. I think Comrade Kalesh can testify to that. By April, I had stopped spending money to that entity, to that department. So all the money that was supposed to come in for my trip to Boya was supposed to go to ground zero from March. So I knew that anything that came in March, moving forward, anything that I write for security or Department of Homeland Security related has to come from my trip to Boya. And then we set up the entire operation. Started with the mobile cost platform that I contracted. They agreed that they were going to only work with a non-profit entity, and we were going to pay $5,000 for the platform. By then, I had just filed for the 501c for Ambazonian Foundation. So I gave them the documents of the filing, and we agreed to make two installment payments of $2,500 each to pay for their fees. And then we also agreed that we're going to take between 2.5 and 3.8% of all the collections that would come in. And I was cautious. I said, instead of allowing all the money to go through electronically, they should give us a check at the end of every month. Because I was afraid that if anything happens with the bank, they will be holding some of our money, and we can always recover the money and put it in a different bank account. So that is how we set it up. And in that platform, an average of about 2,600 and something individuals donated an average of about $250 or $225 for a whopping total of about 580 something thousand dollars. I think that record, they have the record. I will show the calculations when they take the platform takes their percentage. We'll see the balance. For the total raise by SACO's travels to across the U.S. and some of the countries that send in money, it was about $193,000. Another I received money from some other countries, the South African, the German people that send money, and then there was anonymous donations a year in the U.S. I received in the tune of about $34,000, and then the treasurer raised from the House of Lords about $10,000 something dollars. If you add all of those amounts, it would give you about $811,000, which is accurate after all the various discounts. So the money did not all come in a lump sum. No, the money was streaming in on a monthly basis, and whatever we raise for the month of June, for example, the check will come in the month of July, and I think initially Sako himself had indicated that we should allow the money to accumulate, and then he had some financial scheme. He was going to give some 300,000, and then they would give us millions, which I knew that it was bogus. And then later on, he said, he will not do it again because they're accusing him that he wants to do his private business. And then now walk in the Joby Jenks people. By then, they have connived with the chief of staff, and they wanted the money to go to Joby Jenks. They kept me aside. So we got all of that situation that I said, you know what, I'm just going to be quiet, but I am going to be monitoring what is coming out of these expenditures. So from the 811,000 that actually came in, I mean, I am telling what I saw came into the bank accounts. I am not going to talk about the amount of money they went for fundraisers that did not end up into bank accounts. That I cannot say it, but I know that there were times that cash was given. Even Frank CFR was given that up to today, I cannot put my fingers exactly where we ended up with those amounts. So from the 811,000 that was raised, I can tell you that about 600 went to Department of Homeland Security and related defense expenditures. About 100,000 went to Plan B. The AP, the Presidency's office, spent about 120. Part went to defense. Part went to the ABC, paying of the ABC TV, and part went to travel. So I'm going to give a detailed account on a spreadsheet that you would see as a slide for you to see how this money was spent. So nobody should sit out there, and I will tell you that for my trip to Boy alone, 99% of the approvals were done by the AP. So if he is keeping records, he should have those records. For him to go around telling Barrister So and or any other individual that I was sitting on the money, that is just far from the truth. So that is the situation with my trip to Boya. Now, Plan B. A lot of people will ask, what is Plan B? Plan B is the same thing that we did with Seseko to try to contract with a third party to assist us in this struggle with funding. And Plan B came with a package, the same way like the entities that we met with Seseko in December came as a complete package. For anybody to say, like Sako himself lying that His Excellency Seseko Ayoktabe had mortgaged $1 million for diplomacy for Ambazonians. That is not the truth. He was not even present. I was present at the meeting. Even the false notion that people are saying out here that there was no General XXX, that's not true. I saw General XXX. A few other individuals like my friend Brinsley probably saw them because Brinsley was a photographer, but he saw them, didn't know that probably that was the individual that they are referred to, General XXX. So to characterize what the $1 million that they were talking about, that Seseko mortgage the interest of Ambazonian for diplomacy, that is far from the truth. Ambazonians were not going to pay for the $1 million. These individuals were going to bring in lobbying, just like BIA has lobbies here, public relations. They were going to come in with defense assistance. They were going to come in with diplomacy, and they were going to assist even with the reconstruction. They were going to assist with raising money for this struggle, and they were going to get a percentage of that money. That percentage of this money, that's where you got the $1 million. It was not like we were going to pay them, we were going to raise $1 million and pay to these individuals. No, this money was going to be raised by these individuals, and they were going to get a percentage. Their consultation fee was $17,000. I questioned the $17,000 from the beginning, and that is why I did not pay it even when Seseko was there. I paid it in February after Seseko was abducted. I think Barrister Bobga advised that I should pay it because we had already committed. Now, when you are going to consult here, particularly here in the US, there is a fee. Even you are going to see a lawyer, the lawyer is going to tell you my consultation is $300 or $1,000. Whether you retain them or not, you are going to pay that fee, and that $17,000 went for the retention fee of that particular entity. Now, it's the same thing with Plan B. Plan B, these individuals were brought on board by John Egiaw, and I don't know how he met them. Initially, I was alienated, but they realized that he was going to deal with financial. There was no way that he was going to keep me out, even though he tried to restrict the information. Even for me, discussing the information with my department and the investment committee was problematic, but I make sure that I had to talk to these individuals for also to get people. You cannot engage with monumental changes in a community like ours without you seeking the input of your people. So I did, and I brought in a lawyer to review the contract. The one thing that I find a little bit disturbing in all of this is during that same time that we're doing this Plan B, I think it was supposed to be, I put the record out. They want the record out, I will put it out. I think it was supposed to come in with 20 million for diplomacy, defense, PR work, everything that the package entailed. And I was looking like, the conditions where they were going to have first priority with our resources, the oil, the mineral resources, agricultural products, and all of that. And then I'm sitting there and wondering, I'm like, why would we be demonizing Cho Ayaba for going to the UK to sign a deal, an oil deal, and raise money to prosecute this revolution? Meanwhile, you are doing the same thing here. So I found that a little bit disturbing, and that has been my position of saying that we cannot, and that's why I do not go out to demonize any of these frontline groups, because if they're doing anything that is going to go for the interests of this revolution, I am all in to support that. So it is I mean, it's shameful that we can vilify another comrade to that extent when you, Sako, you are doing the same thing. The commitment of the resources of that Southern Ambazonian were done without even seeking the input of the people. And guess what? I knew that I was just like a parasite in the whole project. I had even gone to New York to meet with these guys, and we slept in New York. Saku himself got so scared. He said it was a CIA sting operation to arrest us. He did not show up. How could somebody pay their money from Europe? Somebody you're trying for him to fund your revolution will fly from Europe to meet with the president, and the president will chicken out. He said, "Oh, you guys go and meet when it's come to time of signing. I will come and sign." So you have become so big. You're, as we say, pola. They would have to go there and deliberate. When it is ready, they will come and present it to you to sign. But you have already signed the initial document. The person got here, frustrated, did not see you, pretended that they were engaging with us, and then they left. Immediately these problems started, and he said he had recalled the government. The first thing he did is write a letter to these individuals, telling them that they have removed Brado from the government. Moving forward, they have to deal with John Egiawan. Unfortunately, my relationship with these individuals, they forwarded me all of that information. I mean, even as a matter of about 3 weeks ago, John Egiawan forwarded the fraud from the Restoration Council, removing SCBC to tell them that this is Sako is the president of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia. Any dealings with Brado is unacceptable and all of that. This individual still forwarded that information to me. And I'm asking, and one of them really asked, are you people really serious? We came in, do you think that a businessman is going to invest his money where he knows that there is internal fighting? We are not going to do that. And I'm telling you, John, know that that foolishness that you and AP Sako engage in, thinking that you were going to be smart, they are not going to deal with it. So sit there and begin to think that they're going to parachute someday pure and give you the resources you need so that you will be the first to get to Boya. And it will be voila. It will be you, John, and Sako and the other gang. You are mistaken. The people from that group that we've been dealing with, I have spoken to them. It is not even my place to tell them about the internal fighting because I am not going to do that. But you guys went and told them that there is internal fighting, submitted documents to them to show that our group now is a legitimate group. The other ones, what a shame and a disgrace to our people. So that is what happened with my trip to Boya. The records are there. I'm going to provide the records and everybody to see them. So I am going to the financial statements. The financial statement again from February, from November 2017 to December 2018 are available. The quarterly statements are there. They were not done on time, but every record is there for anybody who wants to review the records would see. I will provide copies. The bank signatories, I hear a lot that I refuse to provide access to the banks. I refuse to hand over the banks. I mean, come on. Dr. Sako is a signatory to this account. For those of you who are here in the US, as a signatory and part owner to these accounts, he also has the authority to add people into this account. How come nobody's asking him if Brado refused all of these things? Why didn't you allow these individuals to come and you add them into the accounts? That is just as simple as that. And then in March, when he came out with this whole charade of the Treasury Board, he announced that they should freeze the accounts and they will open new accounts. Listen, that was a big fat lie. The account was already open in January. And he knew that I had that information, that account was open and I was going to reveal it. So he quickly came in to blindside the people and tell them that, oh, we are going to open an account. So that account was opened with Chase Bank in Dallas in January. And how did they open accounts without them having the necessary paperwork to open an account? Yes, that answers the question. When Sako came in, I provided him with all the paperwork that belong to this organization. He has the copies of the EIN numbers for those of you who are here in the US. He has the state incorporating documents. And then the Treasury Board that he put together, headed by Richard Tangu Connive, he worked with them. They went in and amended the charter of the Articles of Incorporation, which is a crime in the first place. The connive, I think, with the former president of the Treasury Board, Dr. Festus Ndei, and concocted some board of directors meeting, submitted it, and changed the charter. If I was this problematic, I would have just gone back to the state of Maryland. I go there every day. I do incorporations. I filed for 501Cs. I filed for the 501C for the foundation. I would have just gone back down to Baltimore and raised the issue that this is the situation and we should be in court right now trying to resolve this problem. But I look at these things and say, no, you know what? Sometimes there's no reason to fight these things. This is all for the struggle. If they're doing it the proper way, I do not have a problem. Even up to now, for this account, my own citizenship levy, they are still taking the citizenship levy from my own account. I have not closed it. Why? People will ask, why are you still leaving your citizenship levy over there? Because I believe that until we've put in a proper structure, money probably still needed to be used to do a couple of things. I know a lot of people will not agree with that, but I do understand that. But I will be doing another presentation pretty much next week to present the new platform that we have used. Then I would call on every individual who is still using the old platform to transfer their payments, citizenship levy into the new platform. So this is the situation. The Braintree account, the PayPal. Richard Tangu proceeded in changing the access to the PayPal account without even informing me. I raised the issue to Sako and said, why would anybody change the access that I gave them to the account without even consulting me? Ended up, because of the too much activity in the account, PayPal has shut down the account. I don't know. I think they shut down the account with about $10,000 balance in the account. I don't know what is in there. Braintree also, the password was changed without consulting me. I do not complain. I just know that at any given time when we review the records, we will see the activity. It is easy to run a report on Braintree. Easy to run a report on PayPal and see that this is the actual balance. I actually have the money that came in from the 1099 for PayPal. The Braintree, I don't have it. I don't even have access to it anymore. So that is the situation. The Treasury Board, he said, well, I refuse to allow the Treasury Board that he appointed to take over the Treasury because there were certain things that I was hiding. That's not true. I refuse to do that in principle. You look at the composition of the Treasury Board. I mean, I know a lot of people will say, oh, you people are bringing up tribalism and all of that. No, you cannot have a Treasury Board where there are about 9 people, all of them are coming from the same region. And almost, even from the same region, almost 80% of them are coming from the same county. And I refuse to go along with that kind of nonsense. You cannot even appoint somebody with that little or no background in finance or accounting to head a Treasury Board as to what the organigram had clearly stipulated. I sought for remedies on how to fix it. I made proposals to him that I have on record. I will provide it, that were completely dismissed. Even the idea about a Treasury Board, it's something that I had earmarked to set up together because there was a need to separate the board of directors of the foundation and the National Treasury. And that is what I have done so far with what I am putting up now, which I was not given the opportunity to do it because you have to separate the board of directors of the Ambazonian Foundation with the National Treasury. Then there is a clear demarcation, and there is one that can actually provide oversight on the order. And the desire was to have an inclusive treasury with representative from the counties. Initially, I suggested the other frontline movements, or each representative from the 13 counties, and the representatives from 2 representatives from the country coordinators, a defense representative, and a representative from the civil society, with 1 representative from the cabinet, so that the cabinet does not have this absolute control over finances. There is somebody that can actually in real time understand what is going back and forth. So that is the situation with the Treasury. I would be doing an interview maybe subsequently with Mark Barretta for people who have questions. I am ready to provide additional information as to what things that need clarity. Just a quick point out on His Excellency Sesukwa Yoktabe, and I think I had earlier mentioned why he got to the decision of recalling the cabinet, but to go out there and verify this guy and declare to the entire world that he is compromised, he is now talking on the side of La Republique. Not only do you put his life in that jail in danger, because you have committed and die-hard Southern Cameroonians in that jail who have believed and trusted in his call for complete separation of our people. And then to now turn around and they are being told that this guy is compromised. He is now on the side and even on the payroll of La Republique with the lives that have been lost. Not only do you put his own security and the security of the people in jail, in danger, his entire family. You get people who have lost everything that they own. They have lost their livelihood. They have lost family members out here that are furious. And when you go out and you tell them that the person who personifies or who is the face of this struggle is the one that is now in bed with the enemy. I mean, you're telling the enemy that this guy is even safer now with you people than with us, because I believe strongly that with the viciousness in one of the interviews that I had Secretary Chris did with VOA, with the level of vitriol that came out of his mouth, if Seseku Julius Ayoktabe is removed from that jail and given to AP Sako and Chris and Co, he will be devoured like he has fallen in a cage of lions. And we must not tolerate this. We must not be this desperate to hang on to power. We must not be this desperate out here thinking that the person that is sitting in jail have become our #1 enemy. Because if you tell people that he's compromised, why do you want that they should send him out? He should not come out. You would not want that somebody who is working with the BR regime should come out here because he will be working against you. Are you just sending code messages to La Republique that I know we've prayed and sent curse messages to him, but I am going to tell you people that he and the other leaders remain strong. There's no hidden fact that he speaks with me. I speak with him. I talk to them. But let's understand that there is nothing that he wants apart from seeing our people liberated, apart from seeing us get to Yaoundé. And his message is clear. There would be either we get to Boya or we're going to continue this resistance and this revolution, because we cannot at this time consider any other alternative. That is his message. Given the atrocities that have been committed in our communities, the people who have died, the property that has been damaged, the destruction of the fabrics, the moral fabric of our community. And we as a people are not going to stand to allow a handful of desperados who think that it is either power or nothing to try to derail them or impugn on their integrity and their characters. We would stand up and we would resist. I'm going to assure you that the president remains steadfast and focused. Thank you.